Hello guys, today I am going to explain how to be an Pro Object 140 user in War Thunder Mobile. Let's begin. First, let's start with mobility. The Object 140 has a 60 kph top speed, 9 reverse, and a 16 horsepower to weight ratio. It isn't beating any Leopard in a race, but it's better than the M60 and M48 tanks. And for an early Cold War era tank, it is very good. When we look at the engines used in the Object 140 and T55, they share the same horsepower, but the Object 140 gets about 5% better RPM. You may also notice that it is much more compact than the T55. This was to keep the tank smaller and lighter. They also share the same weight, which is very good. Now, onto transmission. Weirdly enough, the Object 140 gets an extra gear forward, 6 instead of 5. It also has a 1 kph higher reverse speed for some reason, but one thing you probably noticed again is that it is way smaller than the one on the T55. Even though the Object 140 is slightly more powerful, it is way more compact, which I love about it. I would rate mobility 7 out of 10. Not insane, but very good. Now it's time for armor and survivability. Let's start with armor first, and I'll cover survivability afterward. As you can see here, the armor on the turret of the Object 140 is insane. It has very similar line-of-sight armor to the T95 Super Heavy tank, but because it is curved, the actual armor will be even higher. Turret-wise, you won't need to worry unless it's APDS or Heat FS, but those rounds can penetrate anything. So I'll only cover AP rounds for now. There are only 2 weak spots on the turret of the Object 140. The turret roof, which has so little armor, and IS-2 can go through it. However, it is very hard to hit, so it's no big issue. The second one is even harder to hit, and you might even say it's a bug. It's like 60 millimeters of armor, and to be honest, I have never managed to land a hit there in a real battle, so I can say the turret is very well armored against AP rounds. Now, the upper front plate. It is made of 100 millimeters of armor placed at 65 degrees, which gives it 240 millimeters of line-of-sight armor. This is better than the T55 with its 100 millimeters of armor at 59 degrees, which only gives a 194 millimeters of line-of-sight armor. It is a slight difference, but one that matters. Now, onto the last part for the front, the lower front plate. It is 100 millimeters of armor, but at a 61-degree angle compared to the T55's 100 millimeters at a 56-degree angle. It may seem like a small difference, but your average AP round ricochets into the ground, doing nothing. Because of that, I would say the extra 5 degrees is actually very important and matters. Now, onto side armor. The hull side is about 74 millimeters of armor, but if you look at the lower part of the hull, you will see it is only 20 millimeters, which is very thin. However, because most of it is 74 millimeters, I would say the side armor is better than most rank 8 main battle tanks. And for the turret side, it is anywhere from 160 to 180 millimeters of armor. And again, it is better than most Western main battle tanks that it faces. For the rear, the armor is only 45 millimeters, and it is okay, not insane, but enough to block heavy machine guns. And for turret rear, it is 60 millimeters, which is enough to block 20 millimeter autocannons. For the roof, armor is 30 millimeters all round, and it is enough to keep you alive against some plane cannons. Also, I felt the need to say this, but the armor below the tank is 20 millimeters. And now I have covered all of the armor found on the Object 140. Now it's time for survivability. Survivability is much harder to explain because there aren't any numbers or statistics to go off of, and you can only understand it when you play for a long time. And I can tell you that if you want to know if a tank is survivable, you want to look at stuff like ammo placement, crew placement, type of fuel, and so much more. I'm going to go over all of them. First, fuel. If your tank has diesel, know that you're at an advantage compared to people with gasoline. That's because diesel doesn't explode as violently as gasoline. What that means is if APDS or Heat FS hits your fuel, your tank would take only minor damage, and you can act like nothing ever happened. Luckily for us, the Object 140 uses diesel. Now crew. The amount of crew on the Object 140 is 4, which is the same for most tanks around this rank. However, here's the problem. Your crew are placed way too close to each other, like all Soviet-made tanks. They are placed in a way where a single shot to one side of the tank can and will kill 3 of your crew, making you easy to kill in that regard. But if someone shoots you on the other side, then it is okay, because your fuel tanks will just absorb the round. Ammo. My favorite part is that it's so smart, yet so unusual. Someone thought, if we use diesel, that means the tank won't explode as easily, so why not cover most of the ammo with diesel? What this means is that you have 17 rounds in the front fuel tanks, 12 in the rear fuel tanks, and 1 in your breech. So you can carry 30 rounds without worrying about having too many. And unless someone directly hits your fuel and ammo at the same time, you won't die. Matter of fact, you can see me in the picture where my front fuel tanks were destroyed by a Leopard, and my ammo was even hit, but it wasn't enough to kill me. And now that's it for armor and survivability. I would give it a solid 9.5 out of 10. It is some of the best armor I have seen at rank 8. From now on, I'm mostly going to rely on War Thunder Wiki so I can get the most accurate stats possible. Let's first go over the most important round here. APCBC. It has 290 millimeters of penetration with 100 grams of TNT equivalent. It also has a very high shell velocity of 10-15 meters per second. This makes it much easier to hit targets at longer ranges or if they are moving. Now I'll go into more technical parts. The round has a 100% chance of ricochet at 71 degrees, a fuse sensitivity of 19 millimeters, which means your round will only fuse if the armor is at least 19 millimeters, and a fuse delay of 1.2 meters, so it travels 1.2 meters before exploding. The round usually likes to denormalize by about 11 degrees when it hits an armor plate at 60 degrees, which is pretty good for an APCBC round. Now, Heat FS, the second best round. It has a maximum penetration of 380 millimeters with 1.2 kilograms of TNT equivalent and a shell velocity of 1,025 meters per second. It is Heat FS, so it explodes on impact and has about 16.6 millimeters of overpressure penetration. Also, remember that heat rounds don't normalize or denormalize. Now, APDS, the third round. It has 379 millimeters of maximum penetration and a shell velocity of 1,535 meters per second, which means it is the fastest round out of the 4 rounds. I wouldn't recommend this over the Heat FS, mostly because it doesn't overpressure, can't reliably penetrate the AMX-50 Foch, and loses penetration over distance. Also, it seems to do less damage, but it is still better than the APFSDS found on the T55. It also denormalizes by about 7.6 degrees, which is normal for most APDS shells. And last, and definitely least, is the HE shell. It has 33 millimeters of high explosive penetration and 1.5 kilograms of TNT equivalent, with a shell velocity of 10,025 meters per second. I wouldn't use this because for overpressure, I can use Heat FS and also kill extremely heavily armored targets with it, so it is not exactly useful, and I wouldn't recommend getting it. Now on to gun handling. Notable things include a 2-plane stabilizer, an 11.1 second reload stock, and an 8.5 second reload with a fully aced crew. The gun speed is decent both horizontally and vertically, but the elevation and depression angles for the gun are very bad. It has a rangefinder and night vision with IR spotlights, but these two still aren't in-game yet. In the future, they will be very good. Now on to machine guns. It gets a 7.62 machine gun as its coaxial and a roof-mounted 14.5 HMG for anti-air or anti-light vehicle capabilities. First, the coaxial MG. It isn't anything special, so I'm not going to go over it in detail. It has 3,500 rounds with 250 rounds in its belt, an 8-second reload fully aced, and only 13 millimeters of pen. It's a standard MG. It's not as good as the German ones with double the fire rate, but these small MGs don't really matter. Now on to what matters, the 14.5. This HMG has 350 rounds with a 50-round belt. It has the same 600 rounds per minute fire rate with an 8-second reload, but it offers more penetration and damage. Compared to the M2 Browning, it has a better fire rate, penetration, and damage. Compared to the DSHK, it has the same fire rate. It uses an API-C round with 49 millimeters of penetration and an insane amount of damage for what it is. It also sounds very punchy compared to the 50 cals. For you to understand how powerful it is, I once managed to destroy a mouse barrel with it. That's how powerful we are talking about. I don't have any footage, but it happened, and that's all you need to know. Also, here are a lot more details for the 14.5 rounds. You can pause and read them if you want to. A notable thing is that it has very similar ballistics to the main gun. For firepower, I would rate it 10 out of 10. Yeah, the reload could have been a bit better, but still, the rest are just so good.
Sorry for the inconvenience, but Larry couldn't arrive on time, so for now, I will be the narrator. He went fishing, so he won't be back for a while. First, you must fall in love with your tank. You gotta connect with your tank in a way you can't even explain with words. Here's a simple one. Name your tank something cute. For example, I named my Object 140 Velvet, so if you see me calling her Velvet or Velvy, know that I am talking about the Object 140. Also, I'm going to share my personal story about why I started loving Velvy. A long time ago, I was playing War Thunder as usual, but then I got a message that said, update the game. Nothing new, so I went to update it, but instead of pressing update, I accidentally uninstalled the game. Because I used a guest account, my account was also lost forever, so I had to start all over again. It wasn't a great account, but it was the best I had, and my most modern platoon was the T-54 1949, which was also the last tank I played on that account. So when I opened War Thunder with my new account, I wasn't motivated to play tanks like I used to, because it took me a very long time to achieve that tank, and now it is no more. So I started playing with planes for a month or two, and at the time, rank 8 planes were an update away, so I might as well. But planes weren't as fun, and I started to lose interest in War Thunder. I wanted to leave War Thunder by the time the next update came out, but I saw something that interested me quite a lot. Velvy. How did I know? Well, that's because I watched a Spookston video about it, and I liked the video a lot, but two things in the video stuck with me to this day. The 14.5 HMG is great, and it is like a T-54 but better. Also, it was the same rank as the T-54, so it could be a good replacement. Furthermore, it had the Shilka and T-10A in the platoon, which was the same as the T-54 platoon. It also had the PT-7657 in the platoon, which was like the ZSU-57 but with stabilizers, some armor, smoke grenades, and better mobility, so it made sense to get it. Also, I had some keys at the time, so I had a chance at getting it. The end of the update was pretty close, but I still didn't have enough keys to buy it, so my hopes were at an all-time low. Then, an event came by, and it allowed me to trade Golden Eagles for keys, which I had quite a lot of them lying around because I was saving up for the P47M1RE. I finally got it after what felt like an eternity, and it was rewarding. It felt good to get a tank better than what I lost, and I kept playing it for months. At that point, I realized that War Thunder was getting better and better with every update, so I might as well stay. Here I am now. If one of the previously mentioned things had never happened, I wouldn't have been playing this game right now. And that's my story on how I made a connection with Velvy.
Guys, I am back. I finally managed to get a catfish and I am so proud. Anyway, back to the video. Now, I'm going to go over the history of the Object 140 tank and why it failed, because knowing the history behind a tank or a plane and whatnot can enhance your relation with the tank. Origins and purpose. In the early 1950s, the Soviet Union sought a successor to the widely used T-54 medium tank. To that end, at the plant of Uralvagonzavod, UVZ, in Nizhny Tagil, a design bureau, OKB 520, headed by a young engineer Leonid N. Kartsev, began work on a new, more advanced medium tank. Design and development work began in 1953. The tank was internally designated Object 140. The tank featured several advanced design ideas: a torsion bar suspension with 6 aluminum road wheels, lighter than steel, to improve ride smoothness and reduce weight. It was armed with a 100mm rifled gun, the D-54TS tank gun, equipped with a 2-plane stabilizer for firing on the move, representing a substantial firepower upgrade over the T-54s and T-55s. To keep weight manageable despite added armor and better firepower, designers used lighter materials, for example aluminum components, and an angled or rounded turret and hull design. The tank was powered by a new diesel engine, the TD-12 diesel engine, a V12 diesel, giving 580 horsepower, enough for good mobility at around 36 to 37 tons. Prototypes and trials. Two prototypes of Object 140 were built in 1957 and put into trials. During testing, several practical problems emerged. The new design, while advanced, proved too complex. The engine and transmission layout was cramped, making maintenance and repairs difficult. Manufacturing issues also arose. Certain parts and armor plate shapes were difficult to cast or produce reliably at scale. As a result, the project's chief designer Kartsev reportedly wrote directly to the Soviet Central Committee requesting cancellation of the project. Shockingly, the request was accepted, and work ended in 1958. Why it was cancelled? The primary reason for cancellation was the practicality. Object 140 was judged unjustifiably complicated, difficult to operate and repair, which made mass production impractical. Meanwhile, a competing prototype series, the Object 430, was seen as having more future potential. The Soviet military chose to back Object 430 instead. Nonetheless, several innovations from Object 140 lived on. Its ammunition-racking ideas, turret ring size, and certain design layout features influenced later tanks. For example, the road wheel design made its way, in modified form, to future Soviet tanks. One of the two prototypes has survived and, as of 2006, is exhibited at the Uralvagonzavod Museum in Nizhny Tagil. Historical significance. Though never mass-produced, Object 140 represents a transitional moment in Soviet tank development, bridging the gap between the simpler wartime-era medium tanks, like T-54, and more modern Cold War-era designs. Its attempt to combine greater firepower, better protection, and mobility foreshadowed some of the design priorities that would shape later Soviet and mainline tanks. Its cancellation also illustrates a pragmatic shift. For Soviet designers and military, reliability, maintainability, and producibility mattered at least as much as advanced features, especially in a system geared toward mass production. And that's about it for history.
Toyota.
Механик-водитель к бою готов. Наводчик к бою готов. Заряжающий к бою готов.
Только пули свистят по степи, только ветер гудит провода, пусть платежи мерцают. Темную ночь ты, любимая, знаю, не спишь, и у детской кроватки тайком ты слезу убираешь.
Стой!
Как я люблю глубину твоих ласковых глаз, как я хочу к ним прижаться.
12 часов!
Темная ночь разделяешь любимая, и тревожная черная степь пронесла. Верю в тебя, дорогую подругу. Эта вера от пули меня темной ночью пронесла. Радостно мне, я спокоен в смертельном бою. Знаю, встретишься что со мной не случится.
Закрыть люки!
Смерть
Механик-водитель
не
к бою
страшна,
готов. Наводчик к бою готов.
ей встречались
Заряжающий к бою
страшные
готов.
степи. Вот и теперь надо мною она кружится. Ты меня ждешь, и у детской кровати спишь, и поэтому знаю, со мной ничего не случится. И поэтому знаю, со мной ничего не случится.
The Allied forces have captured a zone.
4 часа
Механизм поворота работает.
Киев бомбили, нам объявили, что
Бронебойным готово!
Киев бомбили, нам объявили, что началась война.
Механизм поворота
Война
работает.
началась на рассвете, чтоб больше народа убить. Стали родители, стали их дети, когда стали врагов большие свои. Их не было сил удержать, Землю уступили родной Украины, тут стали людей убивать. За землю родной поднялся украинский народ. На бой уходили все мужчины, сжигая свой дом. На бой уходили все мужчины, сжигая свой дом. Молись снаряды и мины, танки гремели бронём. Ястребы красные в небе кружили, мчались на танк. Началась зимняя стужа, были враги близ Москвы. Пуски полили, мины рвались, немцы полили, рвались, немцы
Заряжающий к бою готов.
бросились немцы бежать, бросили танки, бросили мины, несколько помнят танцы скоро настанет тот час, мы вам начешем затылок, будете помнить. Мы вам начешем затылок, будете помнить.
Фугасным готово! Пулемет готов! Пушка к бою
люблю глубину твоих ласковых глаз. Как я хочу к ним прижаться теперь губами. Темная ночь разделяет любимая нас и тревожная ночь пролегла между нами. Верю в тебя, дорогую подругу мою. Эта вера открыли меня темной ночью пронесла. Радостно мне, я спокоен в смертельном бою. Знаю, встретишь ты возле меня, что со мной не случилось. Смерть не страшна, с ней встречались, как мы встретились. Вот и теперь надо мною она кружится. Ты меня ждешь, ты у детской кровати не спишь, и поэтому знаю, со мной ничего не случится. И поэтому знаю, со мной ничего не случится.
Allied forces have captured a zone. Артиллерия, координаты С2. Уничтожить.
22
Принял. Открываю огонь.
ровно в 4 часа Киев бомбили, нам объявили, что началась война. Киев бомбили, нам объявили, что началась война. Война началась на России, что больше народу убить. Стали родители, дети, когда стали врагов большие, их не было сил удержать. Вступили родные, стали людей. За землю мной защищали, поднялся украинский народ. На бой уходили все мужчины, сжигая свой дом. На бой уходили все мужчины, сжигая свой дом. Вались снаряды гнили, танки гремели по бронём. Ястребы красные, выходили, мчались на запад. Начало были враги близ Москвы. Полили, меня рвались, немцев терзали. Полили, рвались, немцев терзали. Бросились немцы бежать.
11 часов.
Скоро настанет тот час, мы вам начешем.
12 часов.
Мы вам начешем.
Общайся.
My final verdict. If you're looking for a tank that can fit your aggressive playstyle, you have found it. Also, here is my last tip. If your enemy uses APHE as their main round, just rely on your armor. It always works.
Look! It's Pac-Man!
Waka waka.
الإمام علي بالأسد بشر